Being resourceful and not waiting around for someone else for certain things is a pretty handy skill, especially when it comes to gathering assets. Sometimes you don't have the logo you need. Sometimes you don't have the images you need. Sometimes you want to find out how you can get your mobile screen onto your desktop screen and take a screenshot and just move quickly in the world of asset gathering and things like that. Now, if you have all of your stuff ready to go in a beautiful folder, then great, no problem. But if you find yourself without the things that you need to get started, I want to show you some very handy tips that can help you keep making progress while you might be waiting on images, logos, things like that. That if you were to just sit on your hands and say, oh, I haven't done anything because they haven't sent me that, that's just not a very good can-do attitude, because we want to make progress and we want to be efficient as designers. So here are some skills that you can acquire to pick up those assets that you don't have. SVGs, images via the inspector, grabbing vector versions of logos, screenshotting to clipboard, mobile to desktop, and emailing people. So first one here, I want to show you that say you want the Twitter icon really quickly, but you don't know how to grab it. Well, a lot of times websites are going to use scalable vector graphics as their logos, SVG. So we can just open our inspector inside of Chrome. Usually the shortcut is Command Option I. If you use a different browser, no problem. Every browser has an inspector. So what you want to do is just click somewhere on this thing. I'm going to click on the internal path. And then we're going to look over here. Don't be scared. It's just a little bit of HTML. Inside of every SVG is going to be different paths or groups. That's what the G stands for. But we can just click this SVG area and hit Command C. And then magically into Figma, we can hit Command V. And voila, we have a nice scalable vector graphic right in our design tool. Now, I will say the one place that it will not work is going to be on a place like this. You say, oh, you know what? I need this Instagram logo. Well, if you look, this is an image tag, which means it's a bitmap image. It's actually a PNG, so you're not going to be able to grab the vector version of that. You'll have to search for the download package or things like that. So you might want to search for Instagram press kit. A lot of times brands have press kits that you can download. Instagram brand resources. This looks like it might be it. Browse guidelines, submit requests, blah, blah, blah. Let's look for assets. Okay, there's the glyph icon. So we can just click that thing. Yes, we've read the guidelines. We want online, and we're gonna download it. So there we go. We've got a zip file. Let's check it out. So we've got the EPS version of the logo, and we've got a PSD. So the EPS is encapsulated PostScript. It's similar to an SVG, and we should be able to drag that onto Figma and open that right up. Uh-oh, EPS not recognizable. So if we open it up in preview, one thing we can do is we can export this as a PDF, save. And at this point, we would not want to say, oh no, we only have the EPS version of the Instagram logo. We're not going to be able to use it. We want to keep pressing on and get that logo vectory and good, just like we need it. So we've exported this PDF. Now let's see if we can bring this PDF into Figma. Still not working. Oh no, we should just stop. No, we should not stop. We need that Instagram logo. So I'm going to search for, we really want an SVG. So let's just search for Instagram logo. There's going to be, let's call it vector. There's going to be lots of different places. Brands of the World and Seek Logo. These are pretty decent websites that you can download it from. Chances are we can grab this one right here. So let's go ahead and download this thing. All right, so that is actually an Illustrator file. Illustrator files are fine if you have Adobe Illustrator. I personally have Adobe Illustrator, but if you didn't have it, then you'd want to find the actual SVG. So while that's opening up, I'm gonna go Instagram logo SVG. All right, seek logo, here it is. chances are there's other icon sets and things like that you could download this from, but maybe you don't want to find a full icon set. You just want that actual SVG. So I'm going to grab this one, download vector. You have to be careful with some of these. They're going to be a little bit spammy. You can see we're getting pop-ups everywhere. There it goes. Instagram logo. All right, we have our SVG. All we got to do now is drag this thing into Figma. There we go. We have our SVG. So now we have our Twitter that we copy and pasted. And now we also have our Instagram. So we're just gonna scale these together. Now we've got our SVGs, and we're not gonna wait around on somebody to get these for us. We're gonna be resourceful and we're gonna find those logos. All right, next up, I wanna show you a project that I was working on. This was a project called Zipper, and it was kind of like a media management for video and photos and things like that. It was a startup that I designed the initial version of their iPhone app, but they were actually pitching this project to other brands because it was gonna be an app that brands would use to just kind of collect all of the assets, videos, and their influencers could upload to this app, things like that. And one of the main clients that they were gonna pitch with this app, and one of the clients they were trying to onboard, was Yeti, the cooler and kind of outdoor company. So I knew that for their pitch decks, they wanted to have Yeti content in their pitch decks. So I just used that as the story for the app. And I actually researched Yeti staff members on LinkedIn, and I found people from Yeti, and I grabbed their names and their avatars off of LinkedIn, and I put them in the app. And I was just being resourceful. But rather than a bunch of random avatars and a bunch of random names, why not be resourceful and pull those images and pull those names off of LinkedIn? You're crafting the story, especially if you want to make a good impression. And you're like, oh, there's Scott. He's our creative director, and this is great. Oh yeah, we can totally use this. But also, I wanted to have Yeti images. They have really good images. I wanted to be able to use their images in our app designs. And I would never go and steal a brand's image and try to use it as my own. But in this case, I don't have any hesitation to use Yeti photos in this app to show Yeti the pitch deck. But how are we gonna grab all these photos? Well, I went to their Instagram page, and just like before, just kind of searching through some of their really nice photos. And Instagram has this weird thing where you can't actually just click the image and drag it off. They're trying to protect their images, and it makes sense that you can't just download their images. But using the inspector again, we can click this little guy right here and click this photo. And this is an empty div. Not sure what it's doing, but the one above it has a little collapsible thing. So we're gonna open that up. We're looking for this right in here. We wanna find this source set and then this source. This is gonna actually, you can see that there's a 1080 by 720 pixel image right there. So I'm just gonna double click into that, and I'm gonna use my arrow keys here to select all of this kind of URL. And then once I've got that selected, I'm gonna hit Command C, come up here, Command V, Command Return to open in a new tab, and boom, look at that. Beautiful, full, big image right from their content delivery network. Now I'm just gonna drag this onto my desktop, drag it into Figma, and boom, we have a nice big image directly from Yeti. Big as we can get. This is a much better image than if we were just to take a screenshot and paste in a screenshot. We'll have a greater flexibility for what we can do with this. So we've basically already covered a vector version of a logo just by searching for it and downloading it. So I'm just gonna throw the Instagram over there. Although it was technically in the SVG category, we can faithfully put this over here and say we know how to get some vector logos now. And so next I want to show just simply screenshotting to clipboard. Say there's a really cool design on Dribbble and you just kind of want to see, man, I wonder how big that button is. I really love the negative space. around that button. So one thing that we can do is just on the Mac, sorry for the Windows users, this is a little bit trickier to do on Windows, but for the Mac, you can hit Command, Control, Shift, 4, and now we're just gonna drag, click and drag. If you hold spacebar, you can move it around, and then if you let go of spacebar, you can adjust the crosshairs. But say we accidentally started right here, and we're like, oh man, well, don't worry, you can just hold spacebar, move it over here, and take a screenshot. Now that Command Control Shift 4 screenshots it to our clipboard. It doesn't save a file on our computer. So now we can go back to Figma and just click the artboard we want it to paste to and hit Command V, and all of a sudden we have a big photo here. Now the trick here is typically you're gonna want to divide by 2 on these screenshots because they'll come in, we're screenshotting these on a big Retina screen if you're on a MacBook, and it will bring it in as it's really large size. So a lot of times you'll have to divide that by 2 to get the full size. And now we can see, okay, we'll just kind of, use this as reference. This might not be exactly the size we wanna go with, but we can now start to use this as reference and say, okay, this is probably, that's 20 points, maybe it's 16. Looks like maybe that's about what they're using. And if I want to create a button like that, maybe I want to practice with that color. And now I've got a big thing. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. That just gives me kind of a really quick idea of that color. And it's just an easy way to grab a design, pop it in here, and use it as reference for sizing. A lot of times when you're designing things, you might want to reference how people are treating their buttons, and you want to measure things. And so it's just a quick way to screenshot something and bring it in to your design tool to see what's going on with the design. Okay, next, mobile to desktop. Sometimes you're referencing something on your phone and you want to get it on the computer. So this is a Mac specific thing, but you can just take a little screenshot. And now I'm going to open up my Finder window. Gonna go to AirDrop, which is right there. And now on my phone, I'm going to go to this photo and click the share icon and AirDrop it to my MacBook Pro. So that just tells me that it's communicating. Now I'm gonna go to my downloads right there. There it is, my mobile screenshot. Again, we're gonna need to divide. Actually, because I have an iPhone 10, this is gonna come in 3 times larger than a regular 1X design. So I'm gonna divide by 3 with that one, and that will give me the 1X design. You can see if I go to phone and I go to iPhone 11, that's gonna be the same size here. Whereas just pulling in that really big, huge version, it's gonna throw off our type sizes because this is 17 point size at 1X. So divide by 3 if you have your iPhone 10, and there are other models and you'll have to research how big the pixels are compared to the 1X version. But for iPhone, typically dividing by 3. If you have an older iPhone, like iPhone 6, it's gonna be like dividing by 2. It'll come in as like maybe 750 or something like that. So that is going from mobile to desktop. And again, sometimes we just wanna see, okay, these cells, they're putting them at like 44 pixels tall. And like, how big are these icons? Okay, let's see. They're doing like roughly 29, maybe 28 by 28 size icons, maybe 29, maybe they're actually 30. So it just kind of gives us an idea of how big they're making these icons. Oh, let's see, what's the corner radius? It looks like maybe they're doing close to 6. There's 6 corner radius. Zoom out. Maybe it's a little more than that. How big are their avatars? How big is Apple making their avatars? This one, 62 by 62. So it just kind of gives you a quick idea, a quick kind of gut idea for how big these massive companies with huge design teams that have put a ton of thought into these designs. You can just quickly get some dimensions for your UI components. And it's a great way to just get your bearings on proper sizes for things, especially if you're designing at mobile. The scale between your computer screen and your actual phone can be really different. So this is a great way to get those measurements. And lastly, emailing people. Emailing people, especially if you're doing work for clients or you're new to a team. There was a time when I was working with a GoDaddy team, and I didn't have the necessary credentials in my GoDaddy account set up to download all the new brand assets. So I was kind of sitting on my hands waiting for this material. But I did have a couple of meetings and I got to meet people, and I had discussions with other designers that were internal designers there. And there was a guy named Mike who was a designer, and I saw some of the work that he showed me that he had done in the past. So I went to my email and I said, "Hey Mike, thanks so much for the meeting today. Hey, by the way, do you have any assets that you could put into a zip file for me to download? I still don't have access to my account. It's gonna take me a while. If you can just put together a few things and send it to me as a zip file, that would be amazing." And designers like to help other designers, especially if you're a nice person and you should want to help someone on your team. So Mike, within a few minutes, he sent me a big zip file of all these different assets. I didn't even get proper access to all those files for like another week. So because I was able to email him and ask for those assets, get a zip file, download stuff, I could just get started, even if it's placeholder, until I got the real stuff. That was just a way that I could be resourceful in another way. So don't let not having certain images or not having certain things stop you from doing the designs that you need to do when there are other means to obtain the resources that you need. So best of luck on your asset collection. There's not really any homework unless you want to practice digging into Instagram or other websites. Dig into the inspector. If you've never used the inspector, it's a great little tool to see how things are put together for SVGs and for JPEGs. So don't forget these tips when you find yourself waiting on assets.